Hey y'all, it's Allie from Greenwitchmystics. Today I'm going to show you how to wire wrap a cabochon. Check out my links down below, like and subscribe, and let's get started. Are some of the tools that you'll need. You'll need round nose pliers, flat nose pliers, and flush cutters. Depending on your cabochon size will depend on what wire and gauge that you need to use, and I will cover that in another video, which hopefully will be posted and linked by now. I really never measure my wire. For this piece, I'm probably going to use around 14 inches of wire. But I always like to have more than too much, because if you have too little, you can't really do anything about it. Where if you have too much, I mean, you can just clip more away. So it's always nice to start with copper when you're starting wire wrapping, because it's just a lot more affordable. So this is probably a little long. So if you would like to make yours shorter, I'm sure there's like a formula out there to figure out like the exact length that you would. So the longest wire that I use will be for the bail. And I'm going to go ahead and clip the other wires. I'm going to make them a little bit shorter than this. You could have the bail wire on like the back side. You would need to be sure to loop it the correct way, which in a future video I might show you, but today I'm just going to show you how I do it when I make the bail the middle. So you can use 24, 26, or even 28 gauge wire as the securing wire. For the base, I'm going to use half round. I believe this is 22 gauge half round. Half round is that kind of flat looking wire. So one way you can decide your wire is by just kind of laying it up against your cabochon to see which one you think will work best. I were to use this 20 gauge, which I could use, I would need one for the back, at least two for the side. I mean, excuse me, at least one, but maybe two for the side, and then one on top. So I would need 3 to probably 4, while with the 18, I could definitely get away with just 3. So it just kind of depends on the look you want to go for. And another way to kind of see how it's going to look is to just lay it over top. I like how the 18 gauge looks, so I think I'm going to use that one. Okay. So here are the wires that I have cut. One thing you want to make sure is to take your time, and we're going to go ahead and take a second to straighten our wire out. You can use your fingers and your hand, or you can use nylon pliers. Some people even use their steel hammering block, but I just use my hands. Be exact and start in the middle you can, but I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. And with half round wire, I don't like to work from the spool with it. With thin round wire, or even just round wire in general, I do, but squared and half round wire, I just have to cut off because it's a lot harder to keep it straight when it's on a coil or even when it's like attached to a spool. So I always clip my half round and squared wire. And you can use squared wire as like the frame, like these main wires. It's a little bit easier for beginners. It has more grip, and it's kind of fun because you can twist it and it leaves a nice little accent design, especially when you go to finish it off, but it can be a little difficult and a task of its own to keep it straight. But I do love some squared wire. And just check and make sure that you're not filling in one side like too much more than the other side. Making sure it's nice and even. And you can periodically check to see, put it up to the stone to see how the length is, and I am happy with that. So when you go to finish it off, make sure that you snip it on the side that is going to be touching the stone and not facing outward, or that you're at least clipping them on the same side. So a little trick is you can use masking tape, or if you have some kind of like thermal printer. I have these small little label stickers as well as some larger shipping label stickers. But if you have some thermal printing sheets or some sticker sheets, you can stick your cabochon on there, and it just makes it easier to keep it still and position it. And again, we just want to go ahead and take some time to make sure that the wires are straight on the sides. This is one thing people forget to do. And you can use a mandrel or even like a marker or something round to help you fit this even easier. And if you use especially half round wire, you want to make sure that this stays straight so it's not like going up like this or down like that. You can experience this with round wire as well. I'm sorry, my cats are in the background playing with something. It was a paper clip. So you just want to make sure that middle part and these wires right here, this part on the side, when you go like that, it kind of can have a tendency to, again, turn one way or the other. So you just want to keep it straight and keep that in mind as you shape this. So one thing that I usually like to do is to hold it in place with my thumb and just take one side, oh my goodness, take one side like very dramatically over, and then do the same to the other, like so, just so there's kind of a clear distinction, and I can make sure that it's actually centered. Like this is This is not, it needs to scooch over this way a little bit. So I'm just going to pinch it just to get this shape here, but you don't want to pinch it too tightly because we want to have a gap up top here. And this is a kind of a good example of what I mean. You can see this side is a little bit more facing inward, while this side is a lot more straight. So we're going to just tinker with that. And some ways you can do that is just taking your flat nose pliers or some nylon pliers and just straightening and tweaking what you need to. So I'm going to go ahead and kink. I'm going to kink a little spot up here. Kind of keep these straight because I like how this right side is positioned, but this left side needs a little work. Again, this is a good time to just kind of straighten out your wires. If you need to like over exaggerate at the tops here, like which sides go where and which wires go where, absolutely do so. Okay. So we just want to work with the wire until it's sitting nice and evenly on the stone. There's a gap here and we have these wires nice and centered. So I will meet you back when I have that done. Unfortunately, there's really no secret to this besides being very patient and just knowing yourself. Like if you need to make marks on the wire, use a Sharpie, it'll come right off. If you need to use tape, use tape. If you need to take a break because you're getting frustrated, take a break. So there's really not any secret, unfortunately, besides just taking your time, working with your fingers, working with your tools if you need it. So finding what works for you. Okay, so for me, this is good enough. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off and make sure that the wires are nice and straight, at least on the base right here. I'm going to be using 28 gauge wire, and you can do this with any of the gauges that you use. I very sloppily wrap it, and then I wrap it a couple times on one side like so. Again, take your time, make sure the wires aren't overlapping, and this just kind of loosely secures it so we can work on it a little bit easier. Make this too long. And there you go. We'll come back to this part later, and now we're just gonna take a second to move the wires around, make sure everything is lined up right here. Cool. Go back and make sure everything fits nice, and then it's nice and centered before we move on to making the bail, and it'll be a lot harder to turn back at this point. So double check your work, make sure everything's good. Okay. So now I'm going to separate and start working on the bail. So I just kind of like to move the other wires around. Just kind of do one little full loop on the around both of them. And I usually just like to do like a two-sided weave, two loop weave. I don't really know what you would call it, but I just do two on each side. So 1, 2, wrap. 1, 2, 1, 2. And I usually will weave for quite some time before I make the outline, but that's just personal preference. But you do, if you're not going to be doing a straight bail, which some people, an option, and check out, hopefully by this time I have this video posted, I will have a bail video. But one way you can make a bail is with half round wire, and you can just make kind of a thin single size bail or like a uniform size bail. But we're gonna make a weaved bail, and I like to use my fingernail. You could use a mandrel or like a round. I just use my thumb. Then we'll just keep going. You want to make sure that your tension isn't too hard so you're not accidentally dragging one wire over too much. I had a really bad habit of doing that when I first started, and I just like wouldn't really check my work, and then by the time I'd almost be done with my bail, one side was like way wonkier than the other side, and there's really no way to unkink dents in like really thin wire. So you just have to, and it's really hard to undo a weave. Even if like you cut the wire, it's really hard to undo it. So just take your time. And if you need to, so don't go like up at an angle. If you're having a hard time securing your wire, make sure you're kind of straightening it out like that. So you're not putting it in at an angle like that. Go ahead and pre-direct it straight. And every so often, squeeze it down and keep going. Again, straight. You can use your finger to kind of help keep it straight. You can use, some people use like rubber thimbles or even like medical tape to wrap around their nails and fingers if you need extra help or find that useful. And this is it. So 1, 2, And there's lots of different weaves you can do. You can do like 3 on each side. You can do a little asymmetrical number. Again, you can do a thick, like half round one. So another thing you don't want to do is have too much slack before you fully wrap the wire around it. So I don't know if you just saw that before. Let me see if I can replicate it. So like you don't want to have like, see all this slack. You don't want to have that, which is another reason why it's nice to kind of go ahead and direct it straight, because it kind of gets that excess slack off. That's another mistake people make, is they have too much slack before they wrap the wire, the thin wire, around the base wire. And so here, which is, I kind of guess what I meant by don't do it diagonal, pre-straighten it. So see, well, I was able to do it with that one, but it just is harder. And that's another reason why people will tug, is you have too much slack on your wire before you finish securing it. And it's tugging on the base wire. So again, you want to check it straight. So don't just be like, oh yeah, this looks good, because I've done that too. I've done that mistake where it looks good this way. You need to straighten it. You straighten it and look at it, because I've done that before and I think it looks good, and then one side is wonky because I'm holding it funny. So always periodically straighten it out, especially if you historically have like wonky bales or do like lopsided weaves. Take a second every, I don't know, 5 to 10 weaves and make sure it looks okay. Okay, so this is my way of doing this. There might be other ways people do this, but I always have a hard time when I'm descending or when I'm going down on a bale. So I have been doing 2, and now I'm gonna do 3. So 1, 2, 3. Oops, sorry. 1, 2, 3. You have to use your fingers as reinforcement. And you might have to kind of very carefully separate the top wire, because it's going to want to get really tight up here. And this is going to want to slide. So 1, 2, 3. Make sure there's not too much slack. This is another step in like bale making and weaving where people really mess up. And this is where you don't want to have too much extra slack. Again, separating them if we need to. 1. Oops. 2, 3. Oops, I tugged up on that. That's why that came up. Don't do that. 1, 2, 3. Cool. 1, 2, 3. Pull this down, check and make sure it looks symmetrical and okay, and that we're on the right track. That's another thing you want to check to make sure that the top wires are looking all right. And then we're just going to keep going. 1, 2, 3. And again, it's don't pull too tight here, and watch your slack and your tension, because your wires are going to want to get really tiny, and you don't want that quite yet, at least I don't, for the look I'm going for. Oop. You want to make sure you're not overlapping wires either. I almost just did that. And if you mess up and like kink this wire right here that goes in between the weave, just straighten it out. Get you a pair of little fine micro flat nose pliers and you'll be all right. But you can just straighten it out, which is another reason you want to take your time and don't have too much slack. So I'm probably going to drop it back down to 2 on each side now. And I will meet you back at the end. Okay, and we are back. So before I secure this, we're going to fix this bottom part. So I'm going to undo this very carefully. And re-secure it. If you're using half round wire, this is not gonna work. But I'm basically just retightening this initial wire. Make sure, again, just take your time, take your time, take your time. Pinch the top wires, or pinch all the wires together with your pliers. And should all come together. If you want to put your cabochon in there to make sure that everything is fitting good, you may do so. I am not, which is a risk. So I'm just going to secure this like so, and cut a little extra off. Bitch. Fuck. Oh. clip that. Move these down. And then you may or may not need to weave a little bit more to make sure it matches okay, or that like it lines up okay. Again, feel free to use a mandrel. I'm going to take this thin wire and add a little extra secureness right there. Clip it. So I'm going to take the back. You can mark these with a Sharpie if you want. I don't. I just take my fingers and go like this. And then you want to pop your stone in here. So something important is you want to make sure that this top is open. This top part right here. Because we're going to use this to secure our extra wire. And you want to push it and make sure that your stone is like actually in it, and that you have enough wires and all that good stuff. So you might kind of have to pull these back wires open and down a little bit. And then I'm going to use my fingers. You can be super precise with this and measure with a Sharpie. And we don't really need to have this part open, so you could pinch it up there and just straighten it out, make sure everything's good. And you want to make sure this middle wire is actually in the middle and securing the stone and not like hanging off on the back or hanging on the front or not really touching the stone. So feel free to pinch up here on that middle wire. All right, now let's go to doing something with all these little arms. Lots of different ways you can finish it off. You can add these as like little swirly accents onto the piece. You can attach these to the bail. You can add beads to these. You can weave these and have a weave. You can coil them. I'm going to keep it simple, and I kind of finish off my pieces a little bit differently each time, so let's just see how I finish this piece. So I try to just kind of match the flow of the piece and whatever the wire tells me to do, as like corny as that might sound. I'm gonna make sure everything is straight. Jesus Christ, the fuck? Okay, hold on. I'm gonna make this one a circle. A little circle moment. Okay, we'll keep that up there. And that's all there is to it. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. Follow me on social media. Check out my Amazon affiliate links down below for products that I actually use. And if you have any future suggestions for tutorials, please comment them down below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.